Whether it's when pigs fly or it's raining cats and dogs, idioms have always fascinated me because they are literally defined as being a phrase that has nothing to do with its components. Like when you say you're giving someone the cold shoulder, your shoulder doesn't suddenly change temperatures. So where do idioms get their meanings? Hello, welcome to Nerdy and Quirky. Here's some cool history on 3 idiom origins. Starting with turning a blind eye, meaning ignoring something. It all started off with this British admiral, Horatio Nelson. Now Nelson was basically a rock star. You know that column in the middle of Trafalgar Square? He's on top of it. Now, something to know about Nelson is that in 1798, during the Battle of the Nile, he got injured. He made this huge fuss about it, saying, "I am killed, remember me to my wife." And the ship's doctor was like, "Nah, you're good, just blind in one eye." Now, fast forward to 1801 during the First Battle of Copenhagen. Admirals Nelson and Parker were leading the attack against the Danish forces, and they could only communicate through flags. Remember that, flags. Nelson was on the front line leading the charge with Parker further behind. Now, Parker was notably more cautious and signaled Nelson to disengage. And in his turn, Nelson held the looking glass up to his blind eye and said, "I really do not see the signal," and proceeded to attack. Which is such an awesome bad move, and if you think so too, smash that like button or just ignore me like Nelson ignored Parker. But to be fair to Parker, his vision of the battle had been obscured by gun smoke. He said he issued the signal for Nelson's sake. If he is in the condition to continue the action, he will disregard it. If he is not, it will be an excuse for his retreat and no blame can be imputed to him. But either way, ignoring the order was the right move since the British went on to win the battle and coined a neat new idiom in the process. Now, instead of ignoring something, what about we ignore someone? When you give someone the cold shoulder. You may have heard the popular story that back in the day, upon receiving guests, you gave them a hot meal. But if that guest was uninvited or they had overstayed their welcome, you couldn't just tell them to leave because that's rude, and in this hypothetical situation, you're British, so everything needs to be passive-aggressive. So instead of offering the guest a steaming roast, you offer them a cold shoulder of mutton. It's a cheap cut of meat chilled to imperfection. The perfect way to say, "Please leave." And it's a good story, totally relatable for every party host who doesn't know how to get people to get out. But there's another possibility, that it was just sort of made up, because the first 2 recorded uses of the term came from Sir Walter Scott novels. Now, this dude was a trendsetter in literature. He's coined phrases like going berserk, the apple of my eye, and tongue in cheek. And he never explained where he pulled the phrase from. So if you really want to know the origin of the idiom, you're gonna need to figure out resurrection first. Next, we talk biting bullets, and let me tell you, most sources have it wrong. But before that, it's sponsor time! This video is sponsored by Amaze, an amazing YouTube channel and website taking the awkward out of sex ed. Also, it's really cute. This week they're tackling communication, an invaluable part of a healthy relationship. Now, did you know that there are 3 types of communicators? Let's imagine we're making a plan for a day out. A passive communicator would go, "I don't know, it's up to you." An aggressive, "It's up to me, here's the plan." And assertive, "Well, here's what I think, but what do you want to do?" Guess which one's healthy? That's right, assertive. It's a healthy way to communicate, and we should all try to be assertive communicators. Now get all the answers you actually want to know about sex, your body, and relationships at youtube.com/amazeorg. Okay, back to the video. Bite the bullet means doing something you've been avoiding. The popular story is that during the American Civil War, while patients were undergoing surgery or amputation, they had to bite on something to distract from the pain and stop themselves from biting their tongue off. Basically, you either die of injury or bite the bullet and take the surgery. However, that story doesn't quite add up because by the American Civil War, basic anesthetics were already in place, so patients could just be unconscious instead of biting anything. However, if you rewind the clock to about a century earlier, you'd find in the 1796 edition of Frank Gross's A Classical Dictionary of the Vulgar Tongue a definition for nightingale. It's a soldier who, as the term is, sings out at the halberts. It is a point of honor in some regiments, among the grenadiers, never to cry out or become nightingales whilst under the discipline of the cat of 9 tails, to avoid which they chew a bullet. So, instead of distracting from the pain during surgery, we started biting bullets to stay silent during punishment, which, honestly, is another situation I wouldn't mind avoiding. So So that was just some cool history on idiom origins. Now, what about you guys? What idiom are you curious to learn more about? I might use it in a future episode. If you want to keep on learning, check out this video I did on 11 interesting word origins, or this video about why we think gingers don't have souls. If you like cool history, consider hitting like, share, and subscribe, but either way, have a lovely day.